speaker, most of you know. Our next speaker, most of us have driven with him right from the beginning in our car, listening to him on a CD. And many of you have even listened to them on your 8-track cassette. That and Heart. But so with that, I'm going to bring up Earl H., if he's here. I thought you were going to be like the pizza, non-existent.
Hi, everybody. My name's Earl. I'm an alcoholic. Hey. All right. Look at this. This is so alcoholically prepared. There's 11 bottles of water under here. Let's see how many I can get through. All right. First of all, thank you guys for asking me to come here. This is truly an honor and a privilege to be involved in an event like this. So thank you for that. That's really nice. And give yourselves a hand, man. Am I too close to this thing? I feel like I should be standing like here. This is good, right? All right. And I want to say thank you to all the people that have come up to me and said really kind things. You've been really, really nice to me, and that never gets old. You know what I mean? Sometimes they think, the guy that's been around a long time, he's got this. It's always a new place. It's always a new day. It's always a new, set of lunatics working doing their thing up there, and it's. So I really appreciate the kind words and, the handshakes and the hugs and all that stuff. And, it was an honor and a privilege to meet you, Bob. You got your own Bob down here with 57 years, I believe. Yeah. Unless I missed one of you, that's pretty much the light up ahead for all of us. That's incredible to me. To be in the presence of someone like that. I mean, you got to be looking out of your skull from a different angle than the rest of us. You know what I mean? That's a lot of life on life's terms. You know what I mean? So much respect. And Angie, Jesus Christ. I'd like to start my talk with my own version of how great thou art. I'm going to bust a move up there. No, we're not going to do that. Angie would come up and pull me off of here. I love you. That's an amazing thing, man. That's Alcoholics Anonymous, right? Crazy white boy sitting down there completely identifying with a crazy black woman up here, right? And because we've been on the road together. I mean, we've been on the road together, right? Baghdad, Kentucky, you and me, right? Whew. That was 50 feet past any lengths, that one. Yeah, it was, man. That was crazy. We didn't blink. We did it. Yeah, I love Angie, man. And it takes all the pressure off me. I mean, we've had a meeting. It's... Yeah, no matter what I do, everybody can leave going, Angie was awesome. So, I'm as comfortable up here as I've pretty much ever been, So anyway, I'll get my sordid tale out of the way here. I didn't start drinking until I was 12. I waited as long as I possibly could, man. I held out for 12 years. Now, I've since, thinking back, I've had some little sparks of life come back to me, it's like, oh, wait a minute. Images of me 4 years old, sipping off my dad's beer, 4 years old. I mean, and when you're 4, a beer can's like this big around, you know what I mean? And I was a natural, man. I knew just how to position the body and tip that thing back. No spillage. None. But I mean, my family riddled with alcoholism on both sides. Both sides of my family. I got 8 aunts and uncles, 4 aunts and 4 uncles on opposite sides, all alcoholics. My mother and my father didn't drink, and they got together and had me, thinking they had escaped this disease, right? And my house was a crazy household. My father was a very violent man. So every morning when I'd wake up as a kid, and I'd be hungry and I want something for breakfast, and I'd look out my bedroom door, and there's 2 ways to the kitchen, and I'd just stick my head up there and just kind of try to vibe, where's the rage? Is it over in that area? Is it, you know what I mean? And just kind of take the opposite path. Sometimes you guessed right, sometimes you didn't. But it was intense living with my old man. And when I was 12 years old, they did a bunch of tests on me because I was a strange kid. I was quiet and shy, but if you took your eyes off me, I was gone. Over that back fence down into the canyons where we lived, right? And I'd get on the deer trails, and I'd pull up off the deer trail, and I'd just sit there stone still, right? And at dusk, the deer would walk by, and I'd just sit there. So I was tripping early, right? I watched the deer walk by, and then I got a hold of a piece of salt lick, and I'd get to where I'd sit there, and the deer would start to come by, and I'd just slide my hand out with that salt lick, and they'd lick that salt, sit there and lick the salt out of my hand, and then you'd hear, Earl! It's like, oh! Run back over the fence, get a beating, and go back to my room for just homework. Anyway, so they thought, it's an odd child, so they took me and they did a bunch of tests on me, and it turned out I had a real high IQ. I don't have it anymore, so I'm not bragging. It's been since about 16. That's just been on a steady decline. And so took me to this other thing. There was this exam. There was this kind of think tank boarding school. It was 9th through 12th grade. And they had decided that they were going to do the great experiment, the 5-year men, they were called. They were going to bring in some 8th graders. And so they gave this exam out all over the world. And 16 kids were picked from around the world to be in this class. Me, I don't know how, a 5.5-hour exam, and I left there, and how I found out I was going to this boarding school is my father came in my room and said, "Get in the car." I said, all right. And I went outside, and there was 2 cars running. This one's full of relatives, and this one's got my immediate family, and my father throws me in the car, and I get in it, and we drive, and I'm like, what the hell, man? And we drove and drove and drove and drove and drove. Finally, we pulled up at the base of this mountain, and there's these few buildings around, and I got out of the car, and my father got out of the car. Nobody else got out of the car, right? And he walked over, and he sat a suitcase down next to me. He stuck out his hand and shook my hand, and he goes, "This will make a man out of you." And got back in the car, and they all drove off. Now, I'm 12 years old, and I'm like, I look 10, right? 5 feet tall, 104 pounds. I mean, like, manhood is right around the corner, right? This is going to make a man out of me, right? Thanks, Dad. I'll be setting my watch for that manhood thing, right? And the feeling was I just got thrown away by the people who knew me best in the world, and I didn't know why they were tossing me out. The fact was I was being given an opportunity for a wonderful education, which held me in good stead to this very day. But, I'm not a facts guy, If it feels bad, it is bad, right? And I was miserable, man. I'm walking around trying, and it turns out I was the youngest and the smallest kid in the school of 250 boys. They had scoured the earth to find 250 of the brightest, most disturbed young kids they could find, and they threw us in this place like Lord of the Flies in this joint, right? Oh, it's bad. And I'm walking around I don't want to make eye contact with anybody. I'm scared out of my mind, right? I'm scared of my own shadow. And you get like that when you live with a guy like my father. You're just walking on eggshells, I had a therapist one day tell me, yes, I have been to many, who told me one day, she goes, "Son, you've been looking over your shoulder since you were 4 years old." I was like, yeah, right? You haven't? You know what you know, right? And so I was walking through the quad about the 3rd or 4th day in there, and I met Tiny. Every high school's got a guy named Tiny. Yours was a girl, right? Mine was a guy, right? Tiny, 6'4", 240. Even played guard on the football team. And this is like a 15-year-old. You know what I mean? This is a big bruiser, and he walked up to me and he said, "How you doing, punk?" And he slapped me in the back of the head and sent me and my books flying right in front of everybody. Now he thought he just smacked a little kid, right? He didn't know he had smacked, a budding homicidal maniac who considered this a life-threatening situation that needed to be responded to. You know what I mean? So just like a complete disassociation, it's like watching yourself do something while your head is going, this is a terrible idea. And that thought ain't slowing you down at all. It's like, I know, man, but it doesn't seem to be stopping me. And I walk right up to Tiny, and I popped that dude as hard as I could, which had no effect on him either. And he looked down, and then I just stood there. Because if I'd have been able to verbalize what was happening inside me, I would have looked up at him and said, "Dude, I'm so far past anything I understand. You're going to have to make the next move because I don't know what to do now." I gave you my best shot, and you're standing there smiling at me. And he looked down at me, and he said, "Kid, you got a lot of guts." And then he beat the crap out of me, right? And as I'm taking the beating, I'm thinking, this is going pretty good. I know how to take a beating. Right? I'd taken plenty of those, right? But he had said, "You got a lot of guts." My violence had masked my fear, right? So I'm that idiot that keeps getting up. You know what I mean? He knocked me down, I just pop right back up. Like, "That all you got?" Right? As he just dropped my IQ 50 points, but with that last punch, right? And you gotta, vaguely off in the distance, I could hear people that were standing like 10 feet away. You know what I mean? But they seemed far off at that point, saying, "Stay down." Huh? Back on the ground again. Until it just got too ugly and everybody walked away, including Tiny. You know what I mean? I got up like, showed that guy. Right? Staggered back to my room, sitting there waiting for the bleeding to stop, thinking, my life sucks, right? I had been fine. I knew the drill. I was at home just days ago. Everything was fine. I knew what to do. I knew what to expect. I had the lay of the land. All of a sudden, I'm like an astronaut, man. I've been launched out in this world I know nothing about. I'm nothing but total strangers around me. Now, while I'm having this conversation with myself, word is spreading across this campus like wildfire. Watch out for this little Hightower kid. He's a maniac. He attacked Tiny, right? So now I got a reputation that has literally nothing to do with who I actually am. Frightened child, maniac, right? My inner life and my outer life are rocketing in opposite directions. And so the cool guys came around, and Matt stuck his head in my dorm room, and he goes, "Hey, man." I was like, "Huh?" He goes, "Hey, man, you want to smoke a joint?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And I didn't even know what that meant, All I heard was, "Do you want to come with us?" And the answer was, "Yeah, man, I'm alone in this deal. You want me to come with you?" I am in. He could have said, "We're going to go kill the Spanish teacher. You want to come?" I said, "Yeah. I'm in Latin. I don't care about the Spanish teacher." Right? By the way, 4.5 years of Latin, very valuable. Oh, man. Anybody ever wants my opinion of the Iliad in Latin, see me after the meeting, and I will mock you. So we go behind the dorm, we pick up Steve on the way. Steve's got a Tupperware container full of cheap red wine, and I mean cheap, no grapes involved red wine. That fortified stuff, right? The stuff that you taste and you go, that's kind of chemically, isn't it? As you just... So Matt took the joint and he took a hit and he handed it to me, and I did what he did, and it burned my lungs. I'm like, whoa. Let's try that. Give me that Tupperware, man. I knew how to tip it back from those beers when I was 4, right? So the wine, and that wine went down, and that hit the bottom of my stomach, man, and that vapor thing that happens just wafted on up, man. And that, it's nasty going down. It's real nasty wafting back up, right? It's like, ain't any grapes in that, right? And it's like, oof, you hand that over and go, "Give me that, I'll try that joint again. Give me that thing again." Right? And I'd already learned the trick, in one pass, just smack it with that finger and the thumb right behind it, and you got it. Right? I hit that again. Nope, I was right the first time. That sucks. Give me that wine back. And I'm standing there, two 13-year-olds and a 12-year-old, just babies standing there standing next to an oak tree behind the 8th grader dorm, right? And I'm looking at these two guys, and all of a sudden it happened. That thing that makes me bodily and mentally different from my fellows occurred, right? In the blink of an eye. And I went from just a frightened, terrified, lonely, fearful, self-conscious child into a guy who was comfortable standing where he was standing, doing what he was doing with the people he was doing it with. Just, the air was let out for the first time in my life. And I just thought, you know what, man, I don't know what just happened. I don't know if it's that pot stuff, if it's that horrible wine, or if it's the fact that I'm standing here with my two very close personal friends, Matt and Steve, because these are my boys now, all right? I don't know, and I don't care, right? And I got to remember now, at this point in my life, I got to remember that in the beginning, it worked perfectly. It did exactly what I needed it to do. It was the fear killer, right? And fear is the last thing I feel. I got a big barrel of emotions inside me, swimming up on the surface, all kinds of feelings, right? I mean, I walked in this room, I felt 7 different feelings from the back door to my seat, You walk in a room and you just go, oh, that guy's kind of imposing. It's like, oh, that guy seems very nice. Well, she's very pretty, isn't she? Oh, there's and anybody tell me, how are you? Oh, well, I'm a little confused, but all right. You know what I mean? It's sort of a constant state for a guy like me. You know what I mean? I get used to it. What's going on? I don't know. Apparently, you don't need to, because I got an awesome life, man. What the hell was I talking about? Oh, yeah. See, it wandered off right there. There's actually a tape set about it. It says it's Earl in New York, unattended. Because my sponsor at one time when I was a few years sober told me, he goes, you should never be allowed to walk the earth unattended. I looked at him and I thought, well, I got no comeback for that. I got no information that says otherwise. So, and luckily for me, I don't have to, right? I'm a member of the best club in the world. I got my people are everywhere. Anyway, so it was humble beginnings for me, right? And I remember nobody died that night. Nobody went to prison that night. Nobody went to jail. Nobody went to the nut house. No blood was drawn. You know what I mean? It just feel better than you ever felt before. Nothing bad happens. I'm in, man. I need to do this as often as I possibly can, which turned into every day for the next 16 years, no matter what, which is the difference between me and a problem drinker. I'm not one of those guys that says don't drink or use no matter what. Because they said that to me, and I was like, seriously? That's the plan? Just don't drink or use no matter what? Because I drink or use no matter what. I'm the opposite of that. It was like when they asked me in the beginning, he says, Earl, we want you to get a sponsor. And I said, okay, what's that? And they said, sponsor somebody who's got what you want. And I said, well, I would like to drink. I hadn't quite got a hold of this thing yet, you know what I mean? But who does, you know what I mean? Stark raving sober, walking in the back of a meeting, head on fire, eyes darting around in your head, mad dogging everybody. I got a sponsor who's got what he wants. That's the best definition of happiness I know, wanting what you have. Anyway. So it was humble beginnings, a little pot, a little red wine, and I was off to the races, man. And I woke up the next morning, first thing I conscious thought was, I got to find Matt and Steve. So it was like, just that. 13 was pills. The only reason I took a pill was I was on a 10-hour fast, and the guy said, would you like a couple of these pills? And I said, yes, I would. And I took them and threw them in my mouth, and I said, oh, by the way, what are those? Right. Like it mattered at this point, right? I just want to know if I should lay down or get ready to paint the house. What are we doing? Kind of secondary information. About that point, I felt an intense desire to lay down. Or my legs did. You know, it just... I said, what do you call that? Lovely stuff. And he said, Tuinal. I went, no. So 13 was Tuinal, second all Placidil. I got strung out on all that stuff. 14 was psychedelics. The only reason I took a psychedelic, I identify as an alcoholic, and I'll explain. Just hold your resentments. You know you won't forget them, so just hold them. I know where I am. My people. And I was on a 10-hour pass with this girl named Debbie. Debbie was a very bad girl, and I will love her till the day I die, man. Debbie just switched it all up on me, man. You know, and so Debbie said, "You want to drop some acid?" And I said, "Yes, I do." Again, no idea what we're talking about. And she took out a lipstick tube and spun it up, and there was a little pill on the end of it. And I thought, well, that's clever. I just took it off, put it in my mouth, and swallowed it. And Debbie said, did you take that whole thing? I said, well, yes, I did, Debbie. It was a very tiny pill. And she said, well, you know, I'm using these big 3-grain pharmaceutical horse caps. I'm choking down, right, by the handful. And she said, well, that's 3 hits of white lightning. I always love it, right over here, right? This lady just goes, oh. I love it when there are people in the room that know what that means. Right. This was not a great decision on my part. Then the next 2 days were evidence of that fact. Wow. 650 hits later, I got classified legally insane by the military, but that's a whole other story. I had much more faith in the military that day when they looked at my, opened up my file and looked at me, and this lieutenant looked at me and he went, "Get out." Wow, it's kind of rude. Smart, but rude. I wasn't exactly helpful, you know. 15 was shooting dope. The only reason I did that was I was on a boat in Marina del Rey with a lovely girl. Kind of a pattern here, right? Cammie said, "Would you like me to stick this in your body?" And I said, "Certain of it, Cammie." And Cammie slammed me, man, and it was one of the good ones, you know what I mean? Those kind that just throw you right back out of your chair, you know? And she hit me, and I did the head bouncing thing. I went, right? And all I remember was on the way down, all I was thinking was, if I'm not dead, I'm doing that again, because that was, if I may, that was magical. Instant what problems? Now, I've been talking about drugs. I must explain. I'm a child of the 60s, right? We were very focused on the drugs, right? Our parents were the alcoholics. We weren't going to kill ourselves like them. We were going to find an entirely new way to kill ourselves. We were focused on the drugs, but when I look back and I'm honest about it, here's the truth. Alcohol was always present for me. I never did drugs without alcohol unless absolutely necessary. And I seldom found it necessary, because you can get booze, right? Booze, and it was reliable, right? Drugs are completely unreliable. There's no quality control going on out there. You have no idea what you got till you get it in your body. You go get a 5th of Jack Daniels, you go get yourself a quart of good gin, you know what you got here. Everything's going to be okay, right? So when you do so much cocaine, you can't get your mouth open anymore. Right? And the party just started, right? And you're already in a self-induced psychosis, right? My favorite kind of psychosis, by the way. If I'm going nuts, I'll decide when. Right? You get that Jack Daniels and suck a little Jack through your teeth, it'll loosen you right up, and you can go on with the party. Right? Everybody relax. Right? False alarm. My friends were funny, man. They just, every once in a while they'd go, "He's blue again." Smack. You know, cold water, rude stuff, man. I was breathing. You know, and that was 16 was the nut house. I decided that 4.5 years of Latin was enough. I'm out, right? I dropped out of high school. My father came back in my life and said, you've obviously lost your mind. Threw me in a nut house. There was 3 months of observation and a year of rehabilitation, which I thought was a little excessive. Right? So, you know, I was a little unruly, and we had the discussion about electric shock therapy, and they brought out the little rubber triangle, and it's not like the friendly, you know, let's go have shock therapy and have a sandwich after kind that they do now, you know what I mean? It was one flew over the cuckoo's nest kind of shock therapy, right? And they're explaining this all to me, and I was just like, I got compliant, man. I mean, I was like, you know what? My bad. What was the question again? I'd love to respond if at all possible. Back to the room with no doorknob, you know? God, I hated that. Hated the no doorknob, hated the no glass, no mirror, you know, just this reflective stuff. Always a guy shave, when they give you a little plastic razor to shave and be a dude standing right there, you're just kind of like, how you doing, man? Oh, I got my throat. I'm kidding. Craziness, man, craziness. So I talked my way out of there, went out back on the street doing what we do to stay loaded on a daily basis, came back in, and they threw the net over me, brought me back in for the second time. I escaped the first day because I had learned if you want to get out of the nut house, you got to get out before they get the Thorazine in you. Because if they get the cup of pills in you, you're leaving when they say, man. Because you got 2 speeds now, slow and stop. That's it. I made a move, man. That first trip in, I tried to bust out of that place, and it was depressing. Right? They had the exit signs like they got here, big lit up signs over the door, and I think they've summed it up. That's all I want to do. Exit. Right? So I was sitting at lunch with this woman named Kilday. Kilday was really crazy. The perfect diversion, because all you had to do to flip Kilday out was look at her and say, Kilday, how you doing? And Kilday, wow! And Kilday just fly, you know, and all the guys in the white jackets had flocked to her, you know what I mean, to contain Kilday. And so I used her as a diversion. I had lunch with Kilday, and I said, Kilday, how you doing? And Kilday flipped out and went going that way, and the exercise was ready, go! And you got to know, man, that is depressing. When you look down and you're like, what the hell, man? I mean, I got the arms working and everything here. And over the loudspeaker from the nurse's station, you hear, Ed, when you got a minute, you want to grab Earl? He's making a break for the door. Ed's in there having a sandwich like, yeah, I'll get him in a minute. He ain't going nowhere. Oh, man. Once again, back to the room with no doorknob. So the second time they locked me up, I busted out of there the first day. I'm in intake. You know, my mother's sitting there wringing her hands, you know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, I've been doing well. Hey, look at that. Boom, you know, out, bells going off, guys chasing me. I'm in the backyard. There's a 12-foot chain link fence with ivy on it. I mean, I got a picture in my head of it, man. I think this is fun. Like we're playing a game, right? I got a soundtrack going in my head. You know, and I hit that fence about halfway up and boom, over that fence, and I was gone for 3 years. And I hit those streets, right? And it's like me and Jack Kerouac, man, on the road. This is going to be the stuff legends are made of. It's going to be romantic. It's going to be amazing, right? It was probably 3 of the most dehumanizing years of my life. It was awful. But I was willing to pay the price, man, because, I mean, I had a guy when I was 16 years old, right at the beginning of all the nut house stuff. A guy said to me, you know, you're an alcoholic. And my response was, what's your point? You can call me that if you want to. I don't have a problem being told I'm an alcoholic. But if you think saying that to me is going to change how I move through a day, you're out of your mind. The only reason we're talking right now is I've had a bit. You know? I don't get out. It's how I breathe. It's how I have a conversation with another human being. It's if there's any chance of me behaving, and I know it's slim, but if there's any hope of that, it'll be because I am somehow properly medicated. That's what will be involved, right? And we know, as we know, alcohol, I started with alcohol and I ended with alcohol. Drugs were just this confused middle ground. And by the time I was 19, man, I was a mess. And I ended up in a few weird things happened, and I ended up at a business college in Northern California. So another long story we don't have time for, but I ended up in business college, and I've become a drug dealer. Big shock. And I had no problem with being a drug dealer because, I got no family, I got no community, I got no sense of ethics or morals. I'm just loose. That's what I am, is I'm loose. And I'm doing the only thing I know anything about. And I'm pretty good at it turns out. And I'm in business college. I'm studying marketing, production, distribution. I'm applying these concepts to my business. Business is booming. I think, this higher education thing ain't bad, man. Right? And I go to a health fair. And at the health fair, they go, "We think you need to see a doctor." And I said, "Okay." Right? And I went and I saw a doctor, and the doctor said, "You have malignant cancer." And I said, "Yeah, well, of course I do." That kind of fits with the way things have gone up to this point. So I fly back to LA, and we see this doctor, and he tells me it was the first time I kind of stopped and saw my life. I had kind of got outside of it and saw it for what it was. And this guy said, "You should probably get your affairs in order." And it really struck me when he said that. I was 19, 20 years old, and I thought to myself, man, I've been here all these years, and I make a couple of phone calls, and we're pretty much good to go here. I got nothing. I got nothing to say for my life. Nothing. I haven't done anything of any value for anybody. So he took me in. They did major surgery on my upper back, and back then they called it nuclear medicine. It's chemotherapy. And I would never go in the room where they administered it, right? I'd wait out in the hall. I'd make them come out in the hall and give it to me, right? And I did it a couple times, and they said, "You guys are so bad at getting high, I can't even tell you the drugs you got in this place. That stuff sucks." So I went home and got loaded the way I get loaded, and I'm a long-term cancer survivor. So there's just no accounting for how you get where you got to get, right? And I beat the thing and just kept on about my way, right? 21 years old, I'm in college, I'm a junior in college, and my mother calls me, and I'm starting to overdose on a pretty regular basis. I'm going belly up a lot. Your life's not working out when you come to in an ambulance and the EMT looks down at you and goes, "How you been, Earl?" It's like, ooh, that's not good. My mother called me crying, and she said, "Look, we haven't been anywhere as a family in 10 years, and we're going to put this thing back together. You and your father are going to sit down and you're going to work this out because I said so." And she was crying. It's like, what? A son has no defense against a weeping mother. So I was like, fine. Right? So I flew back to LA, and on my 22nd birthday, November 7th, 1974, we took off to fly to Guadalajara, and on the way there, the plane crashed. And my mother, my father, my little sister all died in the crash, and I survived. And I came to, and I was still sitting in my seat. My seat had been ripped out of the plane. I was in the wreckage, and I fractured my skull, broke my back in 3 places, crushed my arm and my leg, paralyzed from the waist down, a lot of internal injuries, a lot of busted bones. I was just like a big flesh bag of bones, right? The only thing I could move was my right arm. I couldn't move, and my mother was laying right over there. My little sister Kimberly was right over there. My father was right over there, and I couldn't get to any of them to help them. I couldn't help them, and I laid there and I watched them all bleed to death right in front of me. And I went to a place in me that I didn't know I had, like way down in the middle of what makes you who you are, and I just said, "I'm out." I renounced God. I have no interest in a God that would take a kind, gentle, loving girl like my little sister Kimberly and leave a lying, cheating, thieving, dope fiend like me on the planet, an alcoholic like me. I had no interest. I renounced God. And then some guys came up and they scavenged the plane wreck, took everything they could find of value, and left me there to die. So I didn't have love for you either. I was out of the game, man. I had no love of God and no love of my fellow man. I was an enraged, maniacal alcoholic laying in the dirt in Mexico. And some guys finally came up and they threw me in the back of a flatbed truck next to my mother, and I held my mother's hand. And all I remember thinking was, look at the rhythm of the fleas in the afternoon light. Look at the rhythm of the fleas as they dance over this death. And then we got to a Mexican aid station, and they tagged everybody dead, including me. They tagged me dead and smoked cigarettes waiting for me to pass, and I didn't. And then they took me to Hospital Fatima in Los Mochis, Mexico. And I came to on a table, and a lot of guys started yelling in Spanish, right? And all of a sudden there's a needle in my chest, and, stuff's happening, right? They're working on me, and they brought me back. And I got anybody who goes, "What did you see when you were gone?" I said, "I got nothing to report. I was here, I wasn't here, I was here again. That's it. That's the whole story on all that." Okay, so all of you guys who want to know about the hereafter, get on the internet, man. I got nothing for you. I got nothing. I don't know, right? And so I'm laying in this hospital, and the federales show up because they got my name. And the federales came, and they interrogated me for 3.5 days through an interpreter, wanting to know what I was doing back in Mexico, because I had a little issue with the Mexican government. Another story we don't need to get into here. Let's just say they weren't happy to see me, right? So after 3.5 days of basically being tortured, which will change you, by the way, that was messed up. They'd sit me up with that busted back, I'd just black out, and then they'd lay me back down, and then they'd come in and say, "We're going to sit you up again." And I'd say, "Please don't do that." And they'd say, "Why are you here?" And I'd say, "It's pilot airman. It was family vacation. Sit me up." Out I'd go. And finally, I called some guys up in Northern California, and they got a plane, and they flew in, they paid everybody off, and they plastered me from the neck down and smuggled me out of Mexico. I ended up in a hospital in Santa Monica, California, and I was in there for a long time getting maximum doses of Demerol every 3 hours around the clock. Because I had a story to sell, man. And I'm an alcoholic and an addict, man. And if I got a story to sell, I'm going to sell it. I'm going to get high. Because I got to blot out the intolerable nature of my existence. I have to, right? So I sang that sad song to those nurses, right? All those codependent nurses sitting there like, he could have it a little early. Give it to him a little early. I said, how about a little extra bump with that early? So, I looked like a sucked-up Jesus, man. By the time I got out of that body cast, I was 128 pounds. I had hair down like this, right? All sucked up and crazy. I had a back brace on and a cane. And I came out of that place as crazy as I've ever been in my life, man. And I was on a mission. And the guys that picked me up were ready. You know what I mean? I got in that car, and I just stuck my arm out. And they tied off that arm, and I grabbed the bottle with that arm, man, and it was on. And I went about the business of blotting out pictures in my head I could not live with. I could not live with. I had gone mad, and I used for 6 years like that. No anchors, grounded by nothing. The only time I ever ended up in a hospital was when they were afraid I was just going to die right in that moment, and they'd throw me in an ambulance, take me to the hospital. They'd detox me, and then I'd jump out of that place and just go back to business as usual, man. It never occurred to me to get sober. It never occurred to me that I might want to check out how people wouldn't. All I did was think, I can't do this anymore. Those last few years, it was, I can't live like this. Drunk. I can't live like this. Loaded. Waking up, and I came to in different cities. I've come to on Speedway in Venice, California at 3 a.m. in the morning. Now, that's not a good place to be at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. I would come to at 3 a.m. in the morning with 4 cops in front of me. And my drinking was so bad, I was perfectly comfortable with this situation. It was familiar to me. Coming to, and there's 4 officers in front of me, none of them look happy. And I know what to do. You keep your hands where everybody can see them, and you just nod. You bet, officer. That's right. So what are we talking about, Earl? I don't know, but I'm sure you're right. Your only other option is to say, look, guys, I just got here. Just a little thing I do. I black out, I come back. I black out, I come back. I don't even, if this ain't Tuesday, then I'm out of this conversation because I don't know. I'm usually good for 4 days blacked out, so it could be Saturday. I don't know. You're going to jail. That's it. You can't say that to the police. Little trick I do. Back. He thinks he's funny. Whack. And I came out of my last blackout. Both my hands were broken. I'd broken over 600 bones. I had over 600 stitches in me. I'd broken 74 bones. My family was dead. I had no friends. I had no place to live. I had pictures in my head. I could not survive. And the cops, there was an ambulance and a police car outside, and they were deciding whether or not to charge me with the attempted murder of David Luboff. And I don't remember, to this day, I have no recollection of any. I just knew I broke both my hands on him. And I'm sitting there, and I got hair down like this. I'm yellow. Thyroid's completely shut down. My liver is so angry. I'm yellow. The pericardium, the sac around my heart is swollen. I'm dying. I'm dying of alcoholism. And none of that mattered to me at all. None of that mattered to me at all. But I had what they call in here a moment of clarity. And the moment of clarity for me was that I wasn't connected to another human being on the face of the earth. And that was a direct result of my alcoholism. And if I didn't want to die, I was going to have to find consciousness beyond that which I currently possessed. I needed information, a way of being, a way of living, a way to take the very next step that was outside any information I had in that moment. And I did not know what to do with a situation like that. I was defeated by alcohol. And I remember there's this woman there, Christina. Both her parents had convulsed to death, so she found me quite attractive. And I looked at her and I just said, help. And somebody else was in the room who said, he said the magic word, and they threw me in the ambulance instead of the police car, and they shot me out of there before the cops knew I was gone. And they took me to UCLA emergency room, and they pumped my stomach and said, get him out of here, he's going to die. I had my stomach pumped so many times I could talk to you while you did it. You know what I mean? They'd run those tubes and just start, how you doing, Earl? Oh, it was a bad day. Nothing to get worked up about. God. You know, just moving that bar a little bit every day till all of a sudden you're just in the darkest place. And they took me to another place, Olive Medical Center, and they put me in a detox unit. And I went, and I was my kick's just getting worse by the second. You know what I mean? I'm ramping up to be sick. It turned out I was going to be sick for 18 months, right? And I'm dying, man. I'm dying. I can feel it. I don't even know how my heart's still beating. And I'm sitting on this bunk, and on the other bunk is this long dude he's on the bunk facing the wall. So I'm looking at the back of him. He's a long, skinny, greasy black hair. Right? You can smell him from across the room laying there, and I'm thinking, yeah, this is great. And this guy rolls over, and I just went, it's an old junkie. You know how rare that is? That's like finding a unicorn. You know what I mean? It's an old junkie. This guy had been shooting dope for like 40 years, you know what I mean? And he sits up, arms all caved in, you know what I mean? This sick dude, right? Got those fingernails that, you know, are evidence that the liver's quit and nobody told the guy yet, you know what I mean? He's sitting there with, you know, with the creep hands, right? And he looks over at me, and I'm looking at him like, dude, man, I'm so sorry. You know what I mean? You tore up. And he looks at me and he goes, brother, you look awful. I was like, oh my God, I'm the lower companion. It's me. And about 5 days they decided this guy's too sick for us, and they took me and drove me down to Long Beach General Hospital, and they had a detox, and this was the detox. It was one room with 21 cots on each side of the room, 42 cots in the room with sheets drawn between them. And how you got sober was you got in the cot. It was called riding the cot. No meds, no help. Kick it, son, kick it. So I got in there and I grabbed those rails, man, and I rode that cot for 47 days. Bucked up out of there a couple times for the seizure, you know what I mean? And all you ever remember about a seizure, you say two things from a seizure. You go, I don't feel so good. And the next thing you say is, what happened? And if you can say what happened in that place, they're like, he's cool, get him back in the cot, right? So they take you out of that hospital side and throw you back in your cot. And 46 is like Dante's Inferno. It was nuts in that place, right? Because, I mean, every minute some guy's getting up and going, and just out the door, man. And they just bring in the next poor bastard and throw him in that cot, you know what I mean? So we were a full house at all times, right? And my counselor, Ray W., came up to me at the end of 47 days. He goes, Earl, you're good to go. I said, seriously? You know, like walking across the room was a commitment, right? And he said, listen, I got to tell you, you could go to AA or die. I was like, that's it? No or? Fill in the blank with literally anything? Because I've never been to AA, but I know a lot about it. That is not a good decision right there. Yeah, those people are very serious about the not drinking thing. I know that about those people. And I got no idea how to get through a day without it. I got these 47 days because I was too sick to stand on my feet and hustle at all. I got nothing. I got no moves, man. And he just said, go to AA or die. And I was like, fine. But what was so fascinating to me was I just had 6 years of hell on earth. No hope. I mean, I'm a hopeless alcoholic. And this guy says, you go to AA, you can find a way to live life there. And my reaction was, really? Really, Ray? It's come to that, has it? Got to go to the A&A, huh? Got to put the plug in the jug. Go sit around with a bunch of guys that got no hope either. How you doing, Roy? What are you up to, man? What's going on in your little A&A meeting here? Roy goes, well, I'm not drinking. Fascinating, Roy. What are you doing later? What do you got? You got any plans for later? What's going on? What's life on life's terms all about, buddy? What do we got? Right? He goes, well, I probably ain't going to drink later either. I've enjoyed our chat, Roy. I feel great about this. Hanging on by a thread here, buddy. Got any ideas what I should be doing? You probably shouldn't drink either. Fantastic. Glad I rested up for this. Might have missed something there. So I ended up in the basement of a church on a Friday night. Mad dogging everybody. Hair out like this, Full beard. Eyes darting around. I mean, looking at you like, do not come over here. It ain't going to go well. Seem like a nice bunch, but I'll bloody this bitch up if you come bother me. Sorry about that. Sorry, I got a little carried away there. I was kind of flashed back into the moment there. Right? Bring those pinkies in, Angie. Bring those pinkies in. And all the old timers were like, man. They from 20, 30 feet away, they were like, good to see you there, buddy. Get your coffee over there, get yourself a seat, and good luck with all that you got going on right there. All right? Good luck. I mean, their time was going to come. These guys knew how to pace themselves, right? We need to pause because he's agitated, right? Right? But every meeting's got that new guy with about 9 months who just caught fire with Alcoholics Anonymous, and he will be giving it away tonight, right? And that guy's name was Vegas N. God bless Vegas, man. Vegas saw me, and all he saw was new guy, right? And here he comes, man. And I'm looking at him like, Vegas totally unfazed by my facial threats, right? And he walks right up to me and he goes, hi, my name is Vegas and I'm an alcoholic. And I said, yeah, me too. So what? I don't know what you're so thrilled about. Get away from me. And he looked at him and he went, all right, you keep coming back. And like 5 guys sitting over there went, whoa, did you see that? Vegas told that crazy dude to keep coming back. We were kind of hoping that guy just wander off, right? Vegas told him to keep coming back. He's taking this shit seriously. Right? Sorry. And Vegas went away, and I was sitting back there just like, what the hell, man? What have I wandered into? And they had the scrolls up on the wall, the traditions and the steps, and I read the traditions. That's for the group. I ain't a group, right? So I read the steps, and I went, got it. What else you guys got? Because I understood. I'm no idiot, right? And then they said, and the guy got up, and he read something, and I was like, I got none of that. I was just too many voices. He's talking. Listen. Don't listen to this. If you listen, you're going to not drink. I don't want to drink. Yeah, you do. No, you don't. And I do. You guys need to shut up. I'm in a meeting. And he's down. I go, see it now? We missed that. We all missed it. Anybody get that? Nobody got that. So shut up. Let's go. Another guy got up. He drank. I drank. He drank. I drank like that. I kind of like this guy. He got better. I don't know. That was weird. And he's down. What happened? They said, we're breaking. What are we breaking? What are we going to break? I feel like breaking something. What are we going to break? He goes, we're going outside. We're going to smoke. I smoke. We'll go outside and we'll smoke. We want to go back to our seats. I don't remember where my seat was. Where the hell was my seat? I was sitting next to a guy in a red coat. Red coat. Where's the guy with the red coat? I said, there he is. Sit down. Sit down. How are you? Fine. How are you? Fine. I'm fine. Just leave me alone. They're reading they rarely saw something. I'm with them now. I got this now. 12 things in AA, 12 things in AA. Oh, 12 things ABC, 12 things ABC. He's gone. I kind of got a little bit of that. All right, that's good, right? And then this guy's up. He's up. Oh, I love this guy. Man, it's a good thing that guy quit drinking. That's some serious business up there. And I like that guy. I felt like that. I felt like that. That guy's reading my mail. How does he know? That's exactly right. And I'm with you. And all this stuff in his life got better. I don't identify with any of that, but I believe it's true. I believe that guy. I believe him. And he said, I need to speak to that man, right? And then we're up. They got me. We're going to pray. Okay, we're praying. And that was me in the beginning. That was every single meeting for me was just, just crazy, right? I was just so scared all the time because I hadn't drawn a sober breath since I was 12 years old. And now I'm 28 years old. I'm in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, and everything is too much for me. It's too bright. It's too loud. There's too many of you. There's too much to think about. I got too many guys in my head. None of them they won't shut up all at the same time. It's like it's like tapping in and out. You know what I mean? I'm gonna rest. Get after it. You know what I mean? And they just. I was no vision for you when I got here. This was a bad situation. But I kept coming to you because, thank you, God, I had literally no place else to go. You could have told me, if you want to be with us, you got to come every day, and the meetings are 12 hours long. I'd have had no scheduling conflicts. Just like Angie, man. It was just like, lay it on me, man. I got nothing in the way here. I don't even have a good idea left. Sorry, I ain't going to debate a thing about this. You just say, you need to just crawl around like a dog on the floor. I'd just say, what kind of dog you looking for? I'm beat, man. And I thought that guy was amazing, and I knew so little about this. I said, I'm coming back next week and hear that guy talk again, because I thought that was the meeting where that guy talked. So I went back the next week, and I sat through all the blah, 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 and the break, and the whole thing, and I found my seat, and I'm sitting there telling everybody I was fine, and everything was good. And then they said, our speaker tonight's Betty. Time out. Who the hell is Betty, and what the hell did you do with Bob? Guy looks at me and goes, you're new, aren't you? And I went, I don't think now's the time to be messing with me, buddy. I've been thrown into the unknown here. Right? Now, meanwhile, Betty's like 75 years old. She's everybody's perfect grandma. Got the hair helmet going, you know what I mean? She got the little spring dress, man, and she is moving to that podium, boy. And I'm trying to find out what the hell's going on. This guy's barking out all kinds of different meetings, and both men speaking and women speaking and stags, and I'm like, shut up. I just, get car, go meeting, here, Bob, come home. That's all I was at. And now Betty's here, right? So, all right. What you got, Betty? How am I getting this hour of my life back? Betty gets up, and Betty goes, hi, my name's Betty. I'm an alcoholic. Hi, Betty. Betty gets up, and she goes, when I was drinking, if you were a reasonably good-looking woman, you could walk into a bar with 50 cents and drink for 2 weeks, and explained how you go about doing that. When Betty sat down, I looked at that dude who'd been spouting off all that AA knowledge at me. I looked at him and I went, Betty is a badass. I would so roll with Betty, man. Now, I left that meeting freaking out. I'm identifying with a 75-year-old woman. What the hell are you guys up to, man? This is weird. Because I'm comparing my insides to your outsides. I'm still in active alcoholism. The greater aspect of my illness, the obsession of my mind, is in full effect. Nothing's touched that yet. I still think like a full-blown alcoholic. I'm stark raving sober. And I said, you got to get a sponsor. And I said, all right. And I told you that whole story, right? And I heard this guy flew into a meeting one night, right? This guy flew into a meeting, right? And he got up at the podium and he said, oh, hello to you. My name is Donald Madden, and I'm an alcoholic. And I just went, this is going to be good. And this guy threw down like I had never seen anybody do it in my life. It was so brave, so courageous, so powerful, so to the point, so clear, so emotional. And it was it was this unabashed love letter to Alcoholics Anonymous. And he loved AA, and he didn't care what you thought about him or that feeling that he held so dear. And he was here to let us know that if we'd be alcoholic, there was a way to live. And I went, that. Give me that. And the guy next to me said, have you been paying attention at all to this guy? And I said, yes, I know who he is. I also know what he is. And he feels strongly about the last thing left on this earth for me. And I want that. I wish to feel strongly about something because I'm dead inside. So I walked up to that man, and he just said, oh, hello. And I said, you're Donald Madden, you're an alcoholic. He goes, wonderful. I see you got a lot out of that. And I said, can I get some Kleenex? Anybody got any Kleenex? Seriously? Y'all bogarting your Kleenex. Oh, sorry. Thank you, kind lady. Started leaking and I can't see. Thank you. Hey, progress. He looked at me and he said, you don't have to like what I tell you. You don't have to think it's a good idea. You just have to do it. My first thought was, I can work around that. Little did I know, man, that guy saw me coming a mile away. This is the kind of sponsorship I had. I was in a meeting a day, 7 to 9 meetings a week. I took out 2 panels, one to the San Fernando Valley Juvenile Hall at the beginning of the illness, and I took it to the county hospital unit, the end of the line, man. I mean, half the people in there were not coming out. They were dying of alcoholism in those beds, right? And I took a meeting in the beginning of the disease and the end of the line every month. And I didn't say no to any AA request, man. I was a good AA foot soldier. I did everything that man said. 2 things I questioned, right, was, well, the main one was this. I got to the point in the book where the promises are. And it says, we won't regret the past or we should shut the door on it. I paraphrase, but it said that. And I said, the hell you say? I said, I got some darkness behind me that I will always regret. So let's just draw a line through that in my book. Look, I'm telling you, with that line crossed out, this is the best deal anybody's ever offered me in my life. But if you leave that line in, when I get to that, man, I'm going to get mad. And things go bad when I get mad. It's not going to go well. And I can't afford knowing there's a tripwire like that just up ahead. So just take it out of my book. Don looked at me and he said, that was a wonderful speech. Son of a bitch. And he just said, we'll be leaving that in your book. It's like, fine. Just sidebar, years later, there was a church where we buried my family. It was up. And I could never go back in that building again. That's where the funeral was. And I just couldn't go in there where the service was for them. I was in a wheelchair for the service, and it was bad, man. It was a bad day. And I knew there was an AA meeting in that church. And and I'm one of those guys, man, I just don't like it. There's something out there that I can't do, something that I'm afraid of. There's Ava, L, yeah, I love you. And one day I just said, hell with it. I pulled the car over. It was a Monday night, and I went in there. And I walked in the back, and the meeting was already going. I'm kind of like trying not to hyperventilate, because my PTSD is just ripping in this place, right? Thinks I'm getting set off from all kinds of stuff. And I'm sitting in the back, and the guy who's leading the meeting knows me, and he goes, Earl, you want to share with us tonight? He just called me out like that, right? And I said, no. You're sitting good right now. No talking. And a woman was sitting across the meeting. She stood up. And she just interrupted the meeting. She stood up. She goes, are you Earl Hightower? And I said, yes. And she burst into tears and was pushing people away. And she came over and she sat down on my lap. and was weeping, and I just held her. And I'm like looking over her shoulder like, oh. This is looking like a serious amends to me. I don't know. Right? And she like gathered herself. I said, darling, what's wrong? And she said, I was in a plane crash. And people I love died, and I got hurt real bad. And I've been being told for 2 years that I need to find you. And here you are. You just walk in. And I said, what can I do for you? And she said, can I make it? I said, yes. Looked her right in the eyes, man. Knowing the madness that chased that girl. And I told her, yes. Because I was there. And I knew that was why they couldn't take that line out of my book. Even the worst thing that I had ever experienced in my life that could never be of value to anybody, ever. It's just the pain that I would carry for the rest of my days. Suddenly, it saved another person. And I was reminded once again that there is no literature in AA that begins with the words, as Earl sees it. I'm just leaking all over the place. So Donald Madden, so my friend Christopher comes up to me one day and he goes, we need to work the steps as outlined in the big book Alcoholics Anonymous. And I said, if you insist, you know. He said, yeah, we found out. We went to this deal and there was Joe and Charlie, the big book comes alive, the original Joe and Charlie, right? And they said there's this triangle with a circle. It's an ancient spiritual symbol, stands for mind, body, and spirit, brought together as a whole human being. Therein lies the balance I've sought my whole life, and I've never had drunk or sober. Never, right? Didn't have it sitting in that moment. And Alcoholics Anonymous adopted that symbol. And unity's the body, I bring it here. I can't get sober, but we seem to be able to if we stick together. This community is vital to my very existence. I can't get sober, but we can. What's the first word in the steps? We. We admit it together, right? So unity's the body, I bring it here. Recovery's of the mind, the greater aspect of my disease, that untreated alcoholism that makes it impossible for me to get comfortable sober, right? And I don't know about you, but this is not about stopping drinking for me. This is about how do I stay stopped. And the only way I'm going to stay stopped is if I can get comfortable sober. And the only way I've ever seen anybody get comfortable sober is by being relieved of the obsession of the mind. You got to put the committee to bed, right? So what do I do? Okay, I'm willing. How do I recover? How do I really recover? He says, well, you worked the 12 steps, Earl, you dummy. That's what they're there for. I said, great, let's hit it. We did. Step one is, what's the problem? Lack of power is my dilemma. I may be capable in many other areas, but when it comes to question of drinking and using, I'm nuts. I'm in the weeds. So lack of power is my dilemma. If that's my problem, what's my solution? Step two. Could I come to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity, soundness of mind, relieve me of the obsession to drink? Gotta have to be. I've tried everything else. Couldn't stay sober for a day. Not a day. Step 3 says, knowing this, you better make a decision to do something about it. So I got down on my knees and turned my will and my life over to the care of a God I did not understand. And luckily for me, understanding God was not a requirement for the successful consummation of this deal. So I set about it. I sat down, turned it over, got back up on the couch. Began an action plan of 4 through 9. 4 and 5 is me, 6 and 7 is God, 8 and 9 is you, and that's the whole team, nobody else to play with. And notice the order here. First, get it together, Earl. Take a good solid look at yourself, right? Fearless and searching moral inventory. Check it out, man. Where do you stand right now? We can't tell you where to go, how to get there, if we don't know where you're standing right now. When you go to Grandma's for Thanksgiving, you get lost on the way, and you call her up and say, Grandma, I'm lost. What's the first thing she says? Where are you now? Now, if you tell her, she can then tell, okay, well, now, from there, you got to come this way. So I did that. I did a 4-step. My sponsor came in, read in my 5th step. The first direction I got, oddly enough, I finished and he looked at me and he said, oh, that was wonderful. He goes, I must tell you, though, we don't kill people here one day at a time. And I said, I can do that. And to be honest, I am greatly relieved to hear that that's the case. Somebody's saying, no, bad idea. They just live here. 6 and 7 is hook it back up with God. Right? And ask God to remove the defects of character, because I'll remove the wrong stuff. I'll cut a deal. That's what I do. You know, we're back to as Earl sees it. Not good. As is written in the 164 pages, right? So I asked God to remove the defects of character, which scared the hell out of me, because I thought, if this really happens, I mean, if it's sudden, you know, like just bam, there go the defects, right? I'm going to say, you know, I humbly ask that you remove my defects of character. It's just going to be like a magician's puff of smoke, and there's going to be a pair of shoes sitting there. Because I am a defective character. I thought it was scary, man. I'd look in the mirror and go, who's that guy? I don't even know that guy. But it happens as you can tolerate it, right? And then 8 and 9 was to hook it back up with you. First, get squared away. Second, bring God into the picture. Third, out of the house. It's the first time they let you out of the house. You know, like, if you look in the book, right, 6 and 7, a couple sentences, right? 8 and 9, they talk to you. Well, let's be clear. You got a little bit of information, and you could be dangerous. So we want you to be very careful how you go out there, right? I'm very, very sorry I spoke to you in a disrespectful manner. I apologize, and the man's means to change, so I'm going to try very hard not to act like that anymore. And since I was disrespectful to you in front of those 4 people, if you want, we'll go find those 4 people, and I will apologize to you in front of all of them. I'll clean this up any way that makes sense for you. Not me, you. And yeah, I stole your car. Yeah, it was me. Right? Really sorry, you know. Estimate the value of the theft at about $45,000. If that's okay with you, at whatever rate of interest you deem appropriate, I will give you this much money every month until that car is paid off, and to make amends means to change, so I'm not going to go steal that guy's car and sell it to pay you for the car I stole from you. I'm out of the car thieving game. Right? 10, 11, and 12 keep me in the mix, right? Because I just made a pass at it right there, right? 10 me, 11 God, 12 you. Keeps me rolling in the only 3 relationships that are available to me. Which is why I find the steps so brilliant, man. I thought this was about not drinking. Man, no, it's so far past that. It's about how do you walk the earth with some dignity and some purpose. Things that I knew nothing about. And here I was given this opportunity to do that. 10, I continue to take personal inventory, and when I'm wrong, promptly admit it. They knew who they were talking to when they threw promptly in there. You loan me money on Tuesday, by Friday I can be very pissed off at you for the insult you have perpetrated upon my person. And it's inexplicable how we do that. But somehow I can make it about, you really asking me for the money back on the day I said I would give it back to you? What the hell, man? Shaming a brother like that. That's just terrible. It's unbelievable, man. With such conviction, right? 11, I seek God. Not the other way around. I seek God. How? Through prayer and meditation. What do I pray for? Knowledge of His will for me and the power to carry that out. Why do I meditate? To quiet the mind so that when the answers come, I can hear them. God doesn't talk to me through the radio anymore. Now, I wasn't a big stimulant guy. I mean, you know, alcohol, heroin, barbiturates, these are a few of my favorite things. I mean, that's my idea of a good night, sitting around checking my pulse. That's perfect. I need a window, I need a TV, I need a woman just right in there, man. But if you don't have any of that, I'll take a big bag of cocaine, please. Can't go down and out? Let's get on those freeways, start decoding those license plates, man. Let's go, right? Let's get that self-induced psychosis. It is time. And the reason I'm bringing this up now is because I had to understand what my real problem was. And my real problem, it wasn't about up or down for me. That was I got sidetracked on thinking that's what it was about. That I got to get down or I got to get up. Wasn't that at all? It was about I got to get out of right here, right now. Because right here, right now, I'm self-centered and I'm afraid. Right here, right now, I'm comparing my insides to your outsides and I'm losing every time. I can't get right now. And that means that drinking and using takes my life away one day at a time. It robs me of now, this moment, this place, being here with you. It robs me of that. What recovery did, what working those 12 steps, when I got to that, unities of the body, I bring it to you. Recoveries of the mind, I work the 12 steps as outlined in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Having had a spiritual awakening is the result of doing that. I can practice these principles and carry the message. How can I help? How can I help? And I didn't know that you could live that way and have a full, rich, amazing life, but that's exactly what's happened to me. When I was 5 years sober, I went to my first conference. It was the South Bay Roundup. It sounded very Western. Thought there might be some sober cowboys down there or something, you know what I mean? So I went down there and I walked into this room and I stood up and I looked up and there's 2,500 alcoholics and addicts sitting in a room, quietly, respectfully listening to one guy talking. His name was Franklin W. from Olive Branch, Mississippi. And Franklin said, I'll sum up Alcoholics Anonymous for you in 6 words. Trust God, clean house, and help others. And I had a spiritual experience standing in the back of the room. Just started crying like a baby. Because that was it. The 3 relationships that the steps taught me about. Trust God. Right? Don't have to have, doesn't even say I got to have faith in God. I got to make a conscious decision that there's a power beyond me out there that I have to put my life in the hands of whatever that may be. If you have a profound faith, awesome, bring it. No conflict whatsoever. If you don't, it's okay. Wrestle with us in here about what that might be. Right? Clean house. Right? Don't stop worrying about what everybody else is doing and start keeping my side of the street clean. What am I doing? As you can imagine, this ain't an easy job over here. I'm 36 years sober, and I couldn't stay sober for a day. And I go to meetings on a regular basis. I have an active sponsor. I sponsor other men in Alcoholics Anonymous because I am not allowed to walk this earth unattended. The law has been laid down for me, and I accept it graciously. Happy to be among you for the rest of my days. And the third is help others. Trust God, clean house, and help others. They're in the order they need to be in for a guy like me. And 6 words, I couldn't believe it. And I went home and cried and told Donald. 16 years later, I'm 21 years sober, and I'm asked to be the Saturday night speaker at the Texas State Conference of AA. And it's at a convention center, and it's, there's like legions of people going. There's thousands of them, and I'm freaking out, right? I strapped on a coat and tie like I did here, and I go walking in there, and there's a guy sitting down in the front. His name is Circe. Circe at the time was 91 years old and sharp as a tack. Circe had been married to the same woman for 59 years, and he was 58 years sober. And he saw me and he goes, Earl, come over here, I'm telling a story. I was like frightened that the guy even knew my name. You know what I mean? He's like, okay. And I went over and I sat down. And he said, so I was talking to Bill and Franklin, and I went, time out, man. You mean like Bill Wilson, co-founder AA Bill, and Franklin, one of the first circuit speakers that went around trying to create continuity in what we're doing around, the country with the ANA thing, and those guys? And he goes, yes, Earl. Now, if you don't mind, I'm trying to tell a story. I was like, I apologize. And he said, listen, so we were sitting there, and Franklin says to Bill, what is the heart and soul of this program that we must protect for the generations that will come? Without hesitation, Bill said to Franklin, that's easy, Franklin, trust God, clean house, and help others. And I had another moment, man. It was like 16 years later, there it is again, proving to me that I don't need to come up with some fancy version of AA. I don't have to come up with a West Side version of AA, a West Coast version of AA. What I need to do is pick up that big book of Alcoholics Anonymous and read the doctor's opinion in the first 164 pages, and if I do what it says, then that sentence will come true for me. That sentence that begins the portion of chapter 5, which Angie sings beautifully. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. And all I got to do is work real hard to figure out what thoroughly means. All I got to do. And what happens is life. Today, I'm 64 years old. I'll be 65 years old. And I cannot tell you, no one in here is as shocked to hear that as I am. That I've been allowed to stay here that long and utter those words is unbelievable with the stuff I have done, where I thought, if I write a book, it will be, here's some things Earl thought would be a great idea. And it's one disaster after another. So we can all get a good laugh at me, right? I've been with the same woman for 20 years. Me. I'm married to somebody I actually know. I've been married several times. That has never been the case for me. I looked at marriage as paperwork. That's all that is. Just give them everything and leave. They don't fuss much if you do that. Hell, it's what's going to happen anyway. Why spend a lot of time on it, I'm happy. I stand before you a happy, grateful, engaged man with a sense of purpose, with a sense of dignity, and none of that is the result of my best thinking. It's the result of being in these rooms with you. So if you're new and you're in this room, congratulations. I got to tell you, you have messed up. Because you're going to think you're just buying a little time resting up, right? And you're going to go grab for that anger, or you're going to go grab for that, that righteous indignation so you can walk out of these rooms and go get drunk at us, and it won't be there. Not if you chop the water and carry the wood of Alcoholics Anonymous. Not if you do that. If you do that, you will find yourself looking out of your skull from a new angle. You will find a life beyond your wildest dreams. I'm now into, get ready, I am now into orchids. And I can prove that heroin to orchids is a natural progression. I was in a, what do you call them? I was in a nursery. It's a plant hotel. Right? And I picked up this beautiful orchid, and I was looking at the orchid, and I told you about all the psychedelics, right? And I was looking at the thing, and I was looking at the thing, and I looked at this orchid just a second too long. And I fell into a parallel universe. And I don't know how long I was in there. It was lovely. I was in there, and I popped out, and I looked around, and Lori was standing over there, and I looked at her and went, hey, we got to get a lot of these. And she said, okay, she knows who I am. And stays. I can't explain it. And we walk through my house, you stop anywhere, you can see orchids. You can see an orchid. Because to me, I look at that and I go, yep, power greater than myself. There it is. The nature, the plants, just blow my mind. Now I live in this spiritual place in a desert, and there's animals all over the place, coyotes and bobcats and javelina and cougars and hawks and eagles and Gila monsters. Those are a trip. You walk up and go, hey, that's a Gila monster. And it looks at you and it goes, and you go, I think I'll go over here. Weird looking things, man. Looks like a psychedelic handbag. They do. All right, enough of that. You new guys. You hear the laughing? You hear that? That's the healer. That's the laugh. That's healing. We suffer from a hopeless state of mind and body, a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. And here we are laughing and carrying on and having a good time. And these people have sat here patiently while two people have carried. She carried on for an appropriate amount of time. I've lost my mind up here. And everybody's just hanging tight, man. You know why? Because we are in this together. And these are good people. And I love them. And you're going to grow to love them too. And there's not a damn thing you can do about it. Good luck to you.